Good morning, afternoon or evening, wherever you are. I'm Paul Clark. Welcome to my studio. So, what have I got for you lovely lot today? Well, we're going to be having a go at painting this lovely little scene with sunlight bursting through the trees. And this was a scene taken from our recent painting retreat in Portugal. Now, we do the Costa festivals twice a year, once in Portugal, once in Ibiza. Fabulous. We are so lucky to be involved in these. Now, if you like your music, you like bathing in beautiful sunshine, in beautiful scenery, and also painting and watercolour every day of the week, then the festivals are for you. So do check out below. In fact, here are just 3 of the many paintings that we did during the week. Enough of this self-promotion, let's get on with it. So come and join me and we'll paint this step by step together. So while in Portugal, I was taking a stroll along the beach early evening when a streak of light caught my eye as the sun burst through a gap in the tree. Now, I tried to capture the moment with my phone, but missed that vital second. But I came close with this image. So, zooming in, I thought this could still work with a bit of interpretation. And I also thought there's some great texture in the rocky bank. And how about turning it into a sunset? Right, for today's materials, my paper is some Bahong Academy. It's a 300 GSM, it's 100% cotton, it's also on a block so it won't need stretching, but of course any decent watercolour paper will do. And my colours today are cadmium yellow, cadmium orange, burnt umber, French ultramarine blue and Mars black, but any black will do, even some Payne's grey will work perfectly well. And for my brushes today, I'm using a large Harke, and from my range a 3/4 inch flat, number 12 and number 6 round, and my trusty number 3 rigger. And I'm also using a touch of white gouache. Off we go, and as you can see, I'm pretty much using a square format for this painting, and I'm completely wetting the whole sheet with clean water using my large Harke. Without hanging about, straight in with some cadmium yellow using my flat brush, just leaving that hole in the middle to create that little glow of light. Now, as I'm moving towards the edges, I'm adding some cadmium orange into the mix. And because everything is still very wet, I should get a nice, natural, subtle blend. And as I'm moving towards the corners, I'm using a very strong mix of the cadmium orange. And I've just noticed I've still got my festival wristband on. So now this layer has to totally dry. Next, I'm dropping into the bank here some sort of cleanish water, but not everywhere, just in a few places, then painting in with my number 12 brush this really nice dark value. And I particularly use Mars Black and French Ultramarine Blue because they are 2 of the most granulating colours I know, and I really want lots of lovely granulating texture. Here I'm just lifting out some of the colour with a wet brush, and what's great is you can see some of that lovely orange colour behind the wash. Don't be afraid of the dark. What I'm doing here is dropping in wet, lots of really dark creamy paint. And to soften these top edges to create a misty feel, I'm just dropping in clean water to get a nice transition into the background. And here, just building up those washes. And here, by placing my brush on its side, I'm creating a dry brush texture just to give a little bit of defined detail. And here I'm painting in a few stripes of clean water, hopefully to create some interesting texture with some backgrounds or cauliflowers. Right, next, one of my favourite techniques for creating rocky textures. This is a plastic store card. I'm just scraping it along the surface, using its flat edge to drag the paint along. And what it's doing is exposing the orange colour underneath as I pull the colour away, giving a highlight side to these rocks. Now timing really is the key to this, because if it's too wet it'll just flow back on itself, and if it's too dry nothing will happen. So it's getting it just at that sort of wet damp stage. And you can see it really works well with the granulating paint. And here I'm digging the card in quite firmly to get these little ridges. Next, with my very grubby hands, I'm taking some ordinary table salt and just sprinkling in very sparingly a few granules. Next, I'm just covering up my sky, then splatting in with the same colour into the damp. And to get some smaller size splats, I'm just letting the paint run out here. And you can always do this to have a little practice first. Next, I'm taking my number 6 brush and this warm mix of cadmium yellow and burnt umber and painting in the main tree trunks, and dabbing out here where the trunks cross over the light area of the sun, and wetting with clean water to soften the edges. And using the same colour again for these smaller branches. And I'm spraying here with clean water just to give a little subtle soft edge. Not too much, don't overdo it. Now while it's still wet, using my number 6 brush, I'm using that same dark mix that I used in the foreground and painting directly into the tree. Not painting in the areas where the branches overlap the sun. And just softening here with clean water so I get a nice natural transition. Now for the main tree canopy here, number 12 brush, and again dry brush technique, picking up the texture from the paper, but also leaving a few gaps of light so the whole canopy doesn't look too solid. Now here around the area where the sun is, I'm putting in a much warmer colour to give that sense of light, so I'm just using some burnt umber. But the really important thing is to soften those edges with clean water. Burnt umber again with the dry brush technique. And then back to my dark mix again. And to keep things moving and get some slightly fuzzy edges, I'm just giving a light spray with clean water. little more burnt umber here with my number 6 brush. Another light spray before putting in these final branch details. And next it's time for my trusty number 3 rigger. The perfect brush for painting in these spindly little branches. It just goes where it wants. And you can see there's still some dampness on the paper, creating this slightly diffused edge to some of the branches. And again you can see I'm painting in that warm goldy colour mix where the branches cross the sun. Now it's time for that lovely bright white highlight, and I'm using some white gouache. This is titanium white by Jackman's. Just a few little dabs. Next I'm taking an orange coloured pastel pencil and just putting a few more little gaps of light in the tree. There we go, all done, and this one took just under 2 hours. Well, I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did, and you'll give it a go. Now, this is definitely one that you can make your own. You could even turn it into a Halloween card, add some bats or anything spooky. But as I always say, always try and enjoy the experience. And in the meantime, please don't forget to like, subscribe if you haven't already, it is free. Hardcore computer graphics. Leave a comment, I do read every single one, can't always reply to them all. And of course, I look forward to seeing you all again next week for another Watercolour Wednesday. Bye for now.